Here we go. What is going on? Cover one crew. Chris Chow's back again. Hope everybody's doing great out there. What is it today? It is a game day. It's Thursday night football between the New York Jets and those Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's flip the script again today, baby. It is Boomer Bust, Travis Etienne going up against Bam Zonovan Knight in a... Okay, so there's been a lot of question marks. Who do we start? Which is the better play this week? It's a tough one because one's been slumping, one's been playing pretty decent as of late since he took over the role. So, I mean, it's a very tough choice for a lot of fantasy managers as we enter the semifinal week of the fantasy football playoffs. Before we get started, hit that like button for me. Just smash it. Take 2 seconds out of your day. Helps us grow this channel that much more. Subscribe to the channel if you love the content. Definitely help me out in that regard. But what do you guys say we talk a little Jags and Jets? Start sit with a little Boomer Bust attached to it. Starting with those meat and potatoes of the player spotlight, it is Travis Etienne. Like I said, this is my guy. I've been a huge supporter of Travis for a very long time, all the way going back to his Clemson days. Huge fan. I believe in the skill set. I believe in the talent, but he has been underwhelming and underperforming these last 5 games. 62 attempts, only 237 yards, 0 rushing touchdowns, 8 receptions, 64 yards, 0 receiving touchdowns. He has been an absolute liability these last 5 games. Yes, he did have a better contest above the 10-point threshold, half PPR versus Dallas Cowboys last week. So that was a good surprise because Dallas's defense is pretty stout versus the run. So at least he kind of somewhat got out of the doghouse. He did injure that foot. They kept him out of that one contest, and it seems to be lingering the last several games. No kidding about that. He only has scored 30.1 points fantasy half PPR for you guys, for us, for me as well. I'm a Travis Etienne owner also. And his overall, though, is not too bad. RB19 on the season at this point. He did have a great start. Maybe the season just caught up to him. You got to think with Travis Etienne, this still is kind of like his rookie year as well. He did sit out his entire rookie season due to that foot injury, the Liz Frank. He has been playing pretty well. Maybe he just hit the wall. Maybe that's part of this problem and part of the process. Hopefully he broke out of that funk last week versus those Dallas Cowboys. So hopefully versus the New York Jets defense that is also pretty stout versus the run, 11th overall in fantasy football versus the run and versus running backs. Hopefully Travis Etienne on a short week is going to be able to do the damage and do the business so that you guys can get those coveted fantasy points in the semifinals. As for Bam Knight, he comes off the waiver wire. He was very much a waiver wire darling for a lot of y'all. When Breece Hall went down, they needed somebody to pick up the juice, and Bam Knight did pretty decent overall. His last 4 games have been very consistent, kind of similar to a Travis Etienne in that regard as well. But, I mean, he's been at least putting up point productivity that we require, man. 59 attempts, 253 in yards, 1 touchdown, 10 receptions for 68 yards. He's not your prototypical pass-catching running back. That's the problem. He's going to limit you in the pass game. You're likely not going to get a high-end level of PPR upside from Bam Knight because they got a Michael Carter, who is also back from his injury, played last week, and you got Ty Johnson, who also does spell in the pass game also. 41.3 points for a Bam Knight over that 4-game span. He is the running back 67, but he did get a late start to the dance this season as Breece Hall was tearing up everybody on the field. So between the two gentlemen, who is going to have a better day? We got Jacksonville's defense against running backs at 23, so the matchup does favor towards a Bam Knight at this point, but the more explosive back and the bigger playmaking back is obviously Travis Etienne, and I think that Travis, it's such a tough matchup, and it's hard to trust a player who is kind of slumping. I just got to feel like Travis did break out of it just a little bit this past week. Wasn't great. I believe it was like 11 half PPR points, so it's not a bad day, but it's not a great day, and we're looking for anywhere from 12 to 15 for Travis in this contest on a short week. Gonna be very difficult. Bam Knight should do very well versus the Jaguars defense that is without Walker, the great defensive lineman. So we'll see how it does pan out, but he should have definite holes to gallop through. Let's talk some start-sit for these Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has figured it out, y'all. He looks good. He looks very good. And, I mean, all he needed was a head coach that knew what he was doing. Urban Meyer completely pooped the bed for this guy. Like I said, this is basically his rookie year as well because Urban Meyer did him no favors, and now Trevor Lawrence is starting to figure it out. He's more comfortable in the pocket. He's finding his wide receivers. He's progressing the field extremely well, and he's throwing those Trevor Lawrence dimes that we know that he could do. Low-risk play for me, even though the New York Jets defense is very, very good. I think Trevor Lawrence is one of these quarterbacks that is just that good. And if he does continue this progression and this path forward, he's going to be easily a top 10 to top 8 quarterback next year in all of fantasy football. I believe he sits at 6 right now, so it's not out of the question he can't finish in the top 5. He's got 269.7 points right now. Yes, the short week does hurt you. Yes, we will see the Jets defense that is very good overall, but Trevor Lawrence is a stud, and I do believe that you could play him on the short week on Thursday Night Football. Like I said with Travis Etienne, it's a mid-level risk for me only because the matchup doesn't play in his favor. The Jets defense is very stout against the run. Hopefully they utilize him a little bit more in the pass game, but that's the problem. They haven't had to of recent because Trevor Lawrence, he is finding his pass catchers with high regularity. Zay Jones is just feasting in this offense right now at Buffalo Bills fans. This is what we wanted Zay to be in Buffalo. He's finally showing it in Jacksonville. Christian Kirk on the other hand. So mid-level risk for a Travis Etienne. I'll go back there and I'll say, you know what? If you have him, I'm a big proponent of starting your studs in the fantasy playoffs. You drafted these individuals for a reason. Let's fire them up when the time is needed, unless you have a better option, like a greater option than Travis Etienne. And I want to say like 2 steps ahead of Travis Etienne. I think I'm playing Travis this week, and I'm hoping for the best, even though it is on Thursday night. Christian Kirk, he does get a risk of a low floor this week. I got floor risk on him simply because he's probably going to go up against Sauce Gardner, and that is not good news. No bueno. We know Sauce, man. Sauce has been locking up everybody this year. Last week, they didn't even throw to his direction. They got an island corner, the likes that they haven't seen in New York since Darrelle Revis. Christian Kirk might be in for a very long day in that respect. But Zay Jones, I'm going to give him a mid-level risk. So if it is Christian Kirk that sees a lot of Sauce, then it's going to be Zay on the mid. If it's the flip-flop where Zay's going to see more of a Sauce, then Christian Kirk should have the better day. But I got to feel like Christian Kirk is going to see a lot of Sauce Gardner in this contest. So mid-level for Zay Jones. He's been absolutely on fire. Stellar the last 3 weeks of the season. You can fire him up, man. He's been a very safe flex play 100% for Christian Kirk. If you're worried about the Sauce play, I get it, man. So that one, I'm going to leave it up to y'all. Pick your poison. Hopefully you have better options. I'm going to take the cautiously optimistic approach and say I'm sitting him this week, but he could pop off. He's one of those players. It's such a difficult start to do, but I said, start your studs. If you drafted him for a reason, you play him this week because you got to get those championships, man. Comes to Marvin Jones, the other Jones on this wide receiver room. He does have DB upside, defensive back upside. He's going to see far lesser coverage. That's kind of why I'm saying the floor is really, it's a risk for a Christian Kirk because guys like Marvin Jones could be running over the field basically free because they're going to lock up Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. They're going to do their best to do that. Potential Marvin Jones finds the end zone once again because of the lesser coverage coming to his side, but it's a very difficult play. I understand you're not going to likely start up a Marvin Jones. If you're playing DFS, don't hate the Marvin Jones play whatsoever. Evan Ingram has found new life with these Jaguars. His dropping problem seems to be something in the past. He gets anywhere from 5 to 8 targets per game over the stretch run of the season. 117 points, starting to find the end zone a little bit, from week to week now. Every 3 weeks or so, he's getting about a touchdown. Evan Ingram in this contest, again, because of how good Sauce Gardner is and how good this defensive secondary has played with Reed and Sauce, you got to think that Evan Ingram should be a focal point in this offense once again this week to get a lot of targets. As for those New York Jets, Mike White was ruled out early this week. He is not suiting up. It is Zach Wilson time once again. The Cougar Killer, he is coming to play. Mid-level risk, he looked okay last week. He wasn't great, but he looked better than what we had seen for majority of the season. Mid-level risk, you're not starting Zach Wilson because it's too detrimental to your fantasy team. Even for all those that lost Jalen Hurts, still losing Lamar Jackson, there are other viable quarterback options to stream instead of a Zach Wilson. I won't do it, but because the matchup is very favorable, he's got some playmakers. I'm going to give Zach Wilson a mid-level risk, meaning he should catch over that 15-point threshold this week. Bam Knight, low-level risk. The matchup does encourage me to say that he should be playing for your fantasy team this week, and I do like it. He should be able to find the end zone. They tried to give Michael Carter a lot of touches last week. It came to no avail. He could not find room to gallop through, and I think we're kind of seeing what Michael Carter truly is. And that's what I said. I believe my pre-draft scout combine player comp was a Jaquiz Rogers type of player, a little bit bigger, a little bit faster type of guy. And I think Michael Carter is that type of guy. He's the PPR upside. He's a change of pace back. He should not necessarily be a 3-down back in this league. If the Jets believed in him that much, they would not have drafted a Breece Hall. So Michael Carter is going to be that spell back. He is a mismatch in the pass game where Bam Knight is the safer play, in my opinion, due to volume upside and potential goal line scoring, man. PPR upside for a Michael Carter once again this week. 95 points on the season. Not terrible, not great. He's too hard to trust for me. I've been basically having Michael Carter on my bench for majority of the season, and that's kind of where he's sticking for me as well. Garrett Wilson does get a low-level risk, even though there is a caveat to that because Russell Wilson needs to throw the man the damn ball, and if he doesn't, then Garrett Wilson's definitely going to give you a terrible showing. But the target share is there. The target share will continue to be there, and Garrett Wilson is that dog. He is a stud. He's going to be eventual one of these superstars in the NFL. Zach Wilson's just got to trust his play like he did back in college and BYU and just start chucking that ball over the field. Instincts take over and just start chucking the ball to your number one wide receiver because he will repay you in very big ways. Get it in his vicinity. There's no reason why you should be throwing the ball over this man's head. Low-level risk because the Jags secondary is not necessarily, dominating by any stretch, and they should be able to get free with a Garrett Wilson. I like the play of Wilson this week. Elijah Moore, high-level risk. You're talking Corey Davis coming off the concussion, high-level risk, and Ty Conklin, high-level risk. The problem with Conklin, though, so I'm not playing Davis or Elijah Moore this week. You can't do it in the semifinals of fantasy football playoffs. Ty Conklin really bugged me last week because I was suggesting the start of Ty Conklin to a lot of people, and he busted. Why did he bust? Because CJ Uzomah, he stole the touchdowns, he stole the targets. Uzomah got 2 scores that game that should have gone to Conklin. So my theory in the Jets using the tight end last week was absolutely correct. I just picked the wrong tight end. So, that stuff tends to happen in fantasy football when you predict stuff. Ty Conklin definitely, he pooped the bed for us as well. So, I did not like it whatsoever. Ty Conklin, I'm keeping him on the bench this week. I think you have better options at the tight end spot that you can play over a Ty Conklin. As for the game prediction, point spread picks, baby. I've been doing pretty decent up and down the last couple weeks. I still am over 500 for the season, and I am going with the Jags this week. They are the underdog going to New York by 1.5 points. We did see some injury updates where Walker, like I said, is not going to play in this contest, but I do believe in this Jaguars offense, how they're starting to move. Playing the Dallas Cowboys the way they did, showed some fight, showed some heart, came back from 17 points. Yes, Dak Prescott did help that with turnover trouble. The New York Jets, to me, with Zach Wilson, they can't figure it all out. They're a good squad. I like what the Jets are doing, especially at home. I really wanted to take the Jets, but I do believe what the Jags are doing and how they're trying to build this team. They got to get the ground game going, remove some pressure from a Trevor Lawrence with Travis Etienne running the ball that much more. I do think the Jags will cover this contest at plus 1.5, and I'm giving a final score of 21-17 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is one of these games that could put them on the map a little bit, where the Jets were ascending and you saw the Jaguars were kind of ground floor. Could even things out with a big victory versus the New York Jets. Should be a very entertaining and fun contest on Thursday Night Football. So there you have it. That is the Jags and the Jets. Trevor Lawrence versus Zach Wilson. The QBs that were drafted in that generational quarterback draft. Right now, Trevor Lawrence is showing that he was generational, where Zach Wilson is not showing as much. Should still be fun. I'm not all out on the Zach Wilson bandwagon just yet either. I still want to give him some time. We'll see how it does work. Hopefully the coaching staff, helps him improve his game. But I think it's going to be a good one, and this is semifinal playoffs. It's win or go home, so we got to get these wins. Hopefully I got you guys on the right foot with a start-sit, but nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me those start-sit questions. I will definitely answer you back, and once again, please hit that like button for me, and we'll see you next time. I am out.